Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you work, you're just barely keeping your head above water? Like rent, bills, and everyday expenses are eating up everything you make, and you never really get ahead. I know that struggle, and I know I'm not the only one. For the past few years, I've been living a simple, mortgage free life in a tiny home. It's been one of the best decisions that I've ever made, but now it's time for another big project, something that means even more. I'm building a tiny home for my daughter and grandson, not because she can't make it on her own. She's an incredible mother. She works hard and does everything she can, but because I know firsthand how freeing it is to live without a mortgage, without rent, without that constant financial pressure. And as a single mom, that's exactly what she needs. My daughter is at that stage in life where she's building a future for herself and her son. And like a lot of young parents today, she's facing a tough reality. Rent is sky high, it's expensive, and living paycheck to paycheck, that cycle can be brutal. And listen, I know what it's like to struggle. I've been there. When my wife and I were young, we didn't have much, but we worked hard, we saved, and eventually we built the life we wanted. And one of the biggest lessons we learned, if you can keep your housing costs low, everything else becomes a whole lot easier. That's why we're doing this. My daughter shouldn't have to spend the best years drowning in rent payments. She shouldn't have to struggle just to give her son a safe, stable home. We have the space, we have the skills, so we're going to build something that gives her a head start. A home of her own with no rent, no landlord, no worry about making ends meet every month. Some people might ask, why not get her an apartment? Why not buy a traditional house? Well, let's take a look at rent these days. For a small apartment, we're talking, what, $1,000, $1,200, maybe even $2,000 a month, depending on where you live. That's money that's going straight into someone else's pocket. Over the course of 5 years or so, that's what, like $75,000 or more, and it's all gone. And for a young single mom, that's a huge burden. Now, buying a house, sure, that's an option, but with today's home prices, the mortgage, interest, and maintenance, all that add up, it can be overwhelming. Plus, not everyone wants or needs a 1,500 square foot house. Not to mention, she'd still be stuck with a $1,000 a month payment or whatever her mortgage would be. That's why we're going tiny. A tiny home is affordable, it's manageable, and most importantly, it's going to be completely hers. No rent, no mortgage, just a place to call home that sets her up for success. Now, I'm starting to plan this, and the way I figured, I have two choices. I can build completely from scratch, or I can start with a pre-built shed shell and customize it, finish the whole interior out just like my wife and I did. I spent some time at the sales lot where they sell the sheds, and I was looking at options, and I can tell you there's some great structures there, and they could save us a lot of time and effort. They're framed out with the doors and windows already installed, and you can insulate and finish them inside the way you want to. This is a popular option for tiny homes, and depending on the price, it could be a smart choice, but I've got to run the numbers and decide what makes the most sense for this particular build and for us. So what kind of home are we building? Well, we're not just slapping together a backyard shed and calling it a house. This is going to be a real home. It's going to be comfortable, functional, and built to last. It's got to have everything that they need, but without any wasted space. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking a bedroom for my daughter and one for my grandson. No lofts or crammed up little sleeping spaces, but like real rooms with privacy. A full bathroom with obviously running water and the plumbing, all the works. No cutting corners there. And then a small but efficient little kitchenette. She won't need a full-size huge kitchen, but there'll be plenty of place to cook and store food. And of course, a cozy little living area where they can just relax and enjoy being at home. We've got the perfect spot picked out up in front of our house. It's close enough that we can help with babysitting, but it's separate enough that she'll have her own space. Now, since I've already built my own tiny home, I know a thing or two about what to do and what not to do. One mistake that I made with my build, and I've talked about it before, is the foundation. I didn't plan it out the way I should have, and I won't be making that mistake again. This time I'm focusing on getting the foundation right from the start, ensuring there's proper drainage, leveling, support, so this home lasts for years to come for her and my grandbaby. Now let's talk about costs, because building anything nowadays isn't cheap. A full-size house, forget about it. But even a standard like tiny home kit that you can buy ranges from like 30 to 80,000. That's before you even start adding things like plumbing and electricity inside. So here's our plan. We're budgeting around $20,000 for this build. My daughter has been saving and working, and my wife and I are helping with funding at least as much as we can. We're doing most of the work ourselves. Actually, we're doing all the work ourselves. Insulation, plumbing, finishing the interior, everything we're doing ourselves to keep the cost down. We're also looking at secondhand materials, repurposing what we can, making sure every dollar goes towards what truly matters. Function, comfort, and durability, just like we did with ours. Another thing we'll do is we'll start looking ahead for materials. This is something that really can help out with costs. If you start right now, we're not going to probably start this build until the spring. So from now until then, I'm going to start combing through Facebook Marketplace, looking on Craigslist, listening out for buddies of mine that may be getting rid of stuff, because you never know what you can find that's cheap. So if you got a little wad of cash rat hole back in your wallet and you're ready to buy, then you can usually find good deals on things. So here's what you can expect from this series. I'm going to take you step by step through the planning, the budgeting, the actual build, and even if there's any unexpected challenges, which I'm sure there will be, that comes up. And in the next video, I'm taking you along as we go and compare buying versus building a tiny home. I'm going to go to the lot where they sell the portable buildings like I made mine out of, and I'm going to check on the prices, because let's face it, it's been almost 5 years since I actually bought my shed that we turned into our home. And obviously prices have changed tremendously in the last 5 years. So we're going to look and see what kind of buildings they got for sale now and what the prices are. And then we're going to turn around and I'm going to figure what it would cost to build a shell pretty much equivalent to what it would be if you went and bought a portable building, right? So just dried in a shell ready to fix the interior. I'm going to compare those two prices, and I'm going to give you my honest opinion on which way would be the best. It may be different for you than it is for us, but I'm going to get all the numbers together and we're going to work through that, and that's going to be on our next video. If you've ever wondered whether it's worth it to build from scratch, I'm going to break it down. I'm going to show all the numbers and we'll see what we're up against. So if you're interested in tiny living, and if you would like to see this tiny home for my daughter and grandbaby come to life, I want you to follow the journey of us building something that truly matters, and come along for the ride, okay? Hey, let's build something great together.